All right. Awesome, brother. I am so glad we were able to do this.
Yeah,
Literally, you just got off the battlefield in Gaza. I spent 4.5 months fighting in the Strip. But the reason why you're on the show today, and by the way, for all our audience, this is going to be a series, and you're actually my first guest, which is a huge honor.
My honor. Thank you.
I mean, brother, you're like a total legend. And so for me to highlight you as my first guest is going to be super cool to do. And what I think is going to be unique for what you're bringing as far as perspective, because like I said, I spent 4.5 months in Gaza. I can talk about that till I turn blue in the face. But you also started actually fighting in Hebron, which I know a lot of our audiences completely miss. Like they don't even realize that there's been a battle taking place in Gaza, in the north, and in Judea and Samaria. And so you have that special perspective, I think, to bring to the table. So if you can start by, number one, giving the audience a little bit of a background about yourself, and then, of course, take us through your first period, because you actually served in 2 different phases. So you did Hebron phase, and then now the Gaza phase. And so we'll work it through that way, if that makes sense to you, buddy, and let's do that.
Absolutely, brother. It's awesome to be here with you. You're a legend in your own right, and I'm honored to have this spot to be your first guest. I apologize in advance for the amount of coughing I might be doing. You know what Gaza's all about.
Oh, yeah.
I just started my detoxing process yesterday, and all that dust and poison, toxic sand and explosive residue is just starting to come out. So I apologize. So my name is Nir Maman. Or the way my wife prefers I say it correctly, Nir Maman. I'm an Israeli. Maman. I've become Americanized, Canadianized too much. I was born in Israel. At the age of 5, we left. We moved to, first to France for a year and then to Canada. Did most of my growing up there.
Nobody's perfect.
I agree.
Because you're as American, I have to jab anything French-Canadian. I mean, French connected to France, right?
Yeah, people always refer to me as a Canadian. I'm not. I'm an Israeli on the outside, an American on the inside, and I've been stuck in Canada for 30 plus years. We're waiting for you guys to come rescue us. So I have going on about 20. I did the calculation the other day. About 27, almost 28 years of professional background now. I'm 47 years old. Started this business, a long time ago, right out of high school. Out of that whole chunk, my military service has only been here in Israel. In both Canada and the United States, I have a law enforcement, policing, and security background.
By the way, when it comes to that, I mean, you're not going to brag on yourself, but like his background when it comes to developing, like you actually developed a lot of different teaching schools of tactics and whatever. You didn't just do law enforcement because there's law enforcement and there's doing law enforcement on the more high end. And I think that's important for the audience as well to understand. Like, I mean, what you have been doing in law enforcement is basically breaking ground in teaching Israeli tactics and close quarter combat and whatever, and combatives, right? I mean, if I'm understanding correctly, because I've been following you for a long time, and to me that's super impressive because, I got to do that as well, but you were the one that was like one of the first ones I know of the Israelis really taking that to the United States in many ways.
I appreciate it. I think it's my lack of an Israeli accent that really opened all the doors for me.
Right.
But
which is super cool to me. I mean, like that's part of your, what you contributed. But before we get into that, when did you start your service actually? So people get an idea of what wars you've been through, what conflicts.
So around 2002 actually is when 2002 is when I first came to Israel on a professional level. Lived here, actually started serving in Kitot Konanut in the West Bank. This was during the second Intifada.
Okay, wow. So second Intifada period. Super intense time for Israel.
Probably one of the worst internal conflicts that we had. The one that really, this is where all of our friendly organizations that love us here, Hamas and PIJ, they changed their charter, made it their mandate on a tactical level, on a warfare level, to attack civilians. Right? So before that, it was Border Patrol soldiers at checkpoints and IDF soldiers, and incidentally, civilians when they could. They grab a bus here and there.
Right.
But the mandate that Khan Yunis put into place was that you're now going to go into the heart of Israel, into the heart of their lives, into the heart of everything that matters to them, and you're going to blow up the cafes and the restaurants. So that changed that whole battlefield for us, as you know.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember that.
I have no doubt.
I clearly remember those days.
Yeah.
Because we started about the same time, our service, in the same exact same thing. The second Intifada, the heat of it, post 9/11. I was actually just finishing schooling in the States at the time,
Wow.
and I remember sitting over there, in the comfort of the United States, and just being frustrated as I would see one post after another of another attack after another attack, cafes, buses, and in a city like this one, we're here in Batya, but just like this, like what you see in the backdrop here, like just in the heart of Jewish life, and it just was horrible, and I couldn't wait to get back any faster, so to speak.
Oh, yes.
And of course, 9/11 was to me like, okay, I had enough. I got to get back there,
Yeah, absolutely.
Because to me, 9/11 wasn't the, like, I know there's a lot of special forces guys or army guys or Marines or what have you who were the combative roles that they played later in their military service. That was the turning point for them. For me, that wasn't the turning point. For me, that was the clarion call of get your butt back to Israel and fight what has been the backdrop to 9/11, right?
Yes.
So to me, it was like,
absolutely.
And so it's about the same time period, and that same, I bet that really also motivated you as well, right?
Oh, 100%. Look, it's for us to serve in Israel, and I'm not taking away from anybody who serves anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's the wrong term, but I think it's a little bit unique for us.
Yeah.
In that this is our DNA. This is all we have. This is what we've been given as this land. This is our final bastion of lives of Jews and the security. We didn't have this during the first Holocaust.
Yeah.
And if we did, maybe things would have been different. And so I contemplated joining the Canadian military.
Wow.
And for me, it was like, look, if I'm going to go and I'm going to put my life on the line, I have to make it for a cause that I came out of. I'm a Jew.
Yeah.
And all my family served. My father served, and my uncles and my cousins. I still have relatives that are in service till this day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where it started for me. I started out just to I've been very fortunate with my service.
Yeah.
On both sides of the pond. Looking back, I would never imagined that I would have been on the path that I have, and I would have achieved the things that I did. Got to do the things that I did, is more so I should say. So military-wise, I started out as in the Golani Brigade, Northern Command. I was a Brown Beret.
Golani is, by the way, one of our legendary battalions.
Yes.
So, I mean, totally respect that you even were there.
Send all the troublemakers. I'm half Moroccan, so I had no choice, right?
Yeah.
That's where they're going to send me.
And this is a Givati guy saying this. So, I mean, if I'm, I can brag on you guys a little bit, right?
I appreciate that, brother.
But we have, again, a similar military service.
Yes.
Because Givati Golani are actually very similar in the pool of the type of people are going to be serving there, right?
Absolutely.
And so
we're mountains, boulders, and thorns, and you guys are all desert and dunes and amphibious and 100%.
Cool.
So from there, a couple years later, I was back and forth quite a bit.
How old were you when you started your service, actually? Because you're older than me. And I recruited at the age of 22, and I was married for 3 years at the time.
I was somewhere around there.
So you were,
I don't do math very quickly.
So you're 47 now?
47 today.
So wow, dude, you would have been like
23,
45.
I think, or something.
I mean, 25.
Or something like that.
Wow.
Something like that, yeah.
So that must have been a challenge for you, because I know for me it was challenging being the old guy.
Yeah, listen.
How was that?
Oh yeah!
I mean, holy smokes, you had a few more years on
it's made it very different. It made it very different. I was already starting off older than most of my ground level commanders.
Exactly.
But look, you assimilate very quickly. You're a soldier. You're there to do what you're told, and you do that the best that you can. Once in a while, you get the kids that still haven't matured. Right? It gets somewhere maybe halfway through basic training that they all start to say, okay, this is where I'm stuck. I got to be a soldier. Enough is enough, right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of learn to kind of gel together.
Yeah.
From the Brown Berets, from Golani, eventually I transferred into the counterterror unit, Pivotal.
Yeah.
So the counterterror unit is the IDF's. It's a dual functioning unit. It's both the counterterror school and it's the counterterror unit for the IDF. On a school is our paraglider.
Yeah,
paraglider friend's back.
We'll retake it here in a second when this guy flies away. It's okay if you fall on the wire, bro. Awesome. So you ended up then transferring to the counterterror school?
Yeah, to the Red Berets, counterterror special forces counterterror unit. So as the counterterror school, we're the tip of the spear of everything that relates to counterterror warfare for all the IDF. We are in charge of all the current standing methodologies, the TTPs. We're in charge of developing all the TTPs in relation to
how the TTP
tactics, techniques, and protocols. Right?
Yep.
There's a lot of American terms that I go back and forth. I get stuck a lot trying to translate things in my head. We're not that sophisticated in Israel, right? Our terms are do, and that's it. So I get a lot of times that I kind of trip up as well, but I'm trying to keep it more professional as far as the terminology. We're responsible for certifying any units in Israel that have any specialties related to surgical warfare, urban warfare, counter-terror warfare, hostage rescue. We're in charge of all of those certification processes.
So essentially all of our Tier 1 units, what the military in the United States call a Tier 1 unit,
yes,
all of our Tier 1 units are going to come through your school, and they're going to hone their skills, essentially.
Correct. Yeah. They do their initial certification with us, go back to their unit. We train all their instructors. They're in-unit instructors. They're in-unit instructors. It's at a certain point, the average Special Forces unit here in the IDF, your training is about 1.4 months up to almost 2 years. And so somewhere within the middle of that range, they come to us for their initial certification. They go back to their units, and then their units are responsible for continuing all that training.
Right.
So, yes.
So you're giving them that base.
Yes.
Yeah.
So within that,
in addition to that, you guys are also operators. As well.
Yeah. So we didn't start that way, right? We didn't start that way. 1974, the Ma'alot High School incident in the north, in May 24th, I believe it was. Is what sparked the entire catalyst of us developing our counter-terror mandates here in Israel.
Right.
3 Palestinian terrorists came in through Lebanon. They were on foot for kilometers on the way. They hijacked a car, killed the occupants. They went to a house, killed the occupants of the house, made their way to the school, took the whole school hostage. There were, if I remember correctly, something like, I think, 300 plus hostages that were students and teachers. Sagat Matkal, our equivalent of Delta Force, and Sagat Golani, our recon unit for the Golani Brigade, were tasked with the rescue. We had a tremendous amount of conventional warfare experience up to this point, but, this was the very first real significant hostage-taking situation, and where
it's a complex hostage situation, right?
Complex, very surgical, micro-tactics were needed, and conventional warfare tactics, as they proved, simply were not going to cut it. The situation was not the most successful. Terrorists started throwing grenades at the hostages. There were some green-on-green exchanges that occurred, soldiers shooting each other. I don't remember off the top of my head now with how many hostages were killed, how many soldiers were killed. All 3 terrorists were killed, and that's overnight. We realized that the terrorists were now going to be coming into the epicenter of our lives, and they were going to start taking hostages, and we were going to start to deal with this on a more daily basis. So they formed the counter-terror mandates, SOPs. They formed the Yamam unit, the domestic counter-terror unit, the Yamam unit belonging to the border police.
So Yamam is the equivalent of the SWAT.
It would be SWAT would be part of it.
Just that it's like SWAT/Delta, I would put it.
I would akin it more to the FBI's HRT, I think.
Okay.
Possibly, right? That's probably the closest, right? Because it's a police it's a police entity.
It's not military.
Yes. There's always crossovers here. Our dynamic geographically is very, very different. I mean, you're across the fence in Gaza, you're in foreign territory, right?
Exactly. But in this war, they were the ones that actually successfully rescued, I believe, all tackle hostage rescue missions that took place during this current war in Gaza. As far as I understand, I don't think there was any other.
The Yamam?
Yeah, the Yamam. They were essentially the ones that I think they were involved.
That was the big mission that happened a few weeks back.
The big one in the heart of Khan Yunis, in the heart of
yes.
Rafia. Yeah.
Yes.
Of course, with other units that were there that
yes.
I'm aware of, but I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
I'm not going to talk about
sure
things that we can't point out. But as far as what was advertised, they were the key unit involved in that rescue.
Absolutely.
Which is just insane. They did that.
We'll get to that shortly, but it's yeah. Look, I got to give it to all of our units. Our units have a tremendous, all of them, even down to a lot of just the infantry battalions, have a tremendous amount of experience given the nature of our history and life here in Israel. Right, our motto has always been that we're a country in a constant state of conflict, interrupted by moments of war, and so. Everybody's going to get their fair share at one point in time.
Yeah.
But, long story short, we then, the government said we need a centralized counterterror school to now hone all of these skills, develop them all, and then disperse them throughout the IDF. So the counterterror unit that was created. And at that time, Sayed Matkal was in charge of it. So it was their senior officers that were all the instructors that were running everything.
Right.
It slowly started to kind of evolve over the years to them jointly with operators from special units that for one reason or another couldn't continue operationally. They got injured or they got pretty far in their qualification courses and didn't make it. So they already had a wealth of knowledge in certain areas. They would become the kind of instructor body. They would go through a 6-month training program and become the instructors. Around the very early 2000s, the very commander who recruited me into the unit, Doron Keidar, he was deputy commander of Duv-Devan for about 17 years. He said, it doesn't make sense that the rest of the world, instructors in all of these their counter-terror schools, when they're instructors, it's because they already did 10, 15, 20 years, and they're ready to retire,
Right.
And that's where they have the kavod, the honor, the respect of becoming instructors.
Right.
They're standing there as guys who have already eaten the field for a very long time.
Yeah.
Here in the IDF, we've always been, for various reasons, probably a different podcast to get into that, we don't have a professional army, we have a mandatory army.
Correct.
Right? So the IDF...
It's the
People's Army.
Yeah.
The IDF will already, at the last year of high school, start to put the students through their primary kind of draft testing, right? To figure out where they're going. When they're done high school, they already know where they're going. They go do their week of draft process, and off they go. 3 years of service, you've given to your country, and now you're released. So a lot of our instructors were not necessarily guys that didn't have any combat experience, but there was a disproportion there, right? There were far more instructors than they were field guys.
Yeah.
And he said, it can't be that way. We need the instructors to be the mouthpiece from the field, right? And also there's the secondary issue of the fact that when something happens in the field, by the time it gets to a school, I mean, a lot has already happened in between there. It doesn't work well. Right, because the first people that get notified of these changes and start to evolve with them are the guys in between, and it's got to be the reverse. When there's changes that happen, it's tip of the spear, the school side of it that needs to grab on that immediately, assimilate it into the current methodologies and TTPs, or make the appropriate changes, and disperse it down. So he flipped the entire model around. Our unit became we were always considered a part of the Special Forces apparatus, but it became a unit no different than any other unit in our whole special operations command.
Right.
So we had, to get into the unit, you had interviews, you had selection phase, you then had your qualification course. Started out of a Q course of about a year and 2 months. Today, it's somewhere around a year and 8 months. It's one of the hardest courses. It's very long. It's got a lot of command elements to it. Squad leader course. We get qualified in every single subject in the field.
Yeah.
All mission profiles of hostage rescue, ship, train, buses, aircraft, maritime operations, land, hostage rescue, and domestic or foreign hostile environments, intervention, urban warfare, all the different firearms. It's an awesome course, and we graduate as commanders, and then the unit itself is an organic, fully autonomous counterterror unit. We operate in the field. We're given missions directly from Central Command, or we work in tandem with and cooperation with all the different special units on a variety of operations. And that's kind of the dynamic of where the unit is at today.
Yeah.
So during my time, I had several positions there. I started out in our hostage rescue section as an instructor, made my way up to lead instructor in charge of the whole hostage rescue section. Half my service, I was assigned to Sayat Matkan. I essentially lived with them on their base as their chief counterterror instructor, and I was responsible for all the training for them. Our Navy SEALs, Instructor and Notavelat, those are the three primary, the only designated hostage rescue units in the IDF, right? And then outside the IDF, we have Metzadah for the prison service, and we have Yamam for the police. So I did that. In tandem with that, parallel to that, I was assigned to our chief instruction office, where I was in charge of our different methodologies. There were different subjects that I actually developed that are still being used today in the IDF. When we would have changes in the field, we at one point, I remember in 2008, Hamas started luring us in, our soldiers in the field, into in the whole Gaza region, into engagements. They had observers that would document everything at the distance, and then the next iterations of these same engagements that we already had our standard tactics for. We had soldiers teams that started getting counter-attacked, ambushed. And we can see right away that it was a direct counter ambush to the methodology. And so right away I would get assigned, this technique no longer works, the tactic is no longer valid, we need to change it right now. And so I would develop the blueprints for that. I would take all the different specialties that we have, the different people that we have as part of my team. We would take it, put it through every filter that we could, and make sure that it's as solid as it gets, and then right away pass it on to all the teaching elements to start redistributing all the new tactics out into the field. So I did that, and I was also the commander in charge of our international training section. So we had a very strong relationship with, there's units that I can say, obviously the United States Special Operations Command, a lot of units out of Europe, out of Asia, out of places that I can't say and I never would have imagined for the life of me would be here training with us. And I was in charge of developing all those programs and training them. And they would come to us before they were deployed to Iraq or Afghanistan. We would have teams that would land here from the U.S., from Europe. They'd fly in on their C-130s, whether it was a unit of 8 guys with all of their kit or, a whole battalion of 120 guys. And from here, we'd have them for a couple of weeks, and they'd go from here right to Iraq or Afghanistan for their global war on terror efforts. So I was in charge of all that, and on the operational side, I was a team leader on our operational deployments. So that's pretty awesome.
So you actually got a very different experience than most soldiers in the military, where normally you're in your unit and you train within your unit, you operate within your unit, and that's all you kind of know, right? Whereas you're training with a lot of the military and Tier 1 units,
yes,
but then also training and learning, I imagine, at the same time, just as you're teaching them,
100%.
You're obviously learning from these units that are coming in from all over the world.
100%.
I mean, that's a huge advantage, I think, for any operator.
It's
that's like, to me, that's like, crap, I'd like to do that.
I'm like I say, I'm very blessed. I'm very blessed for the path that I've been put on. Yeah. I got to absorb tons. No matter how small the details. Whether it's different units that we had. They got different weapon platforms, and they work on boats, and so they hold their weapon a certain way, whereas we have an equivalent unit that has an M4 as opposed to their primary being, for example, a mini Uzi, because they got to climb over ladders and stuff like that, and they're working within CQB environments, and their weapon is maybe shouldered a little bit differently, right? And I could see all the nuances and how everything kind of melts together. Each one has its purpose, and a lot it would help me be so much better at what I do as well, right? Because I can draw from everywhere. So I've been very blessed for that, and so I served. I finished my service around 2010 and moved back to Canada. My law enforcement background there, I worked patrol with a transit authority. I was an instructor at one of our police academies, and I was on one of our nuclear SWAT teams. And did that in the U.S. I had a couple periods. I was living there. I had an assignment with assignment as a deputy commander of a tactical unit with the tribal police department, helping them put together their whole department, their unit, which was awesome. Sure. And for the last 5 years, I've been a reserve deputy sheriff in Georgia, and that's my triangle. That's where I've been back and forth, between everything.
So you're doing all that, and then essentially what happens is October 7th breaks out.
Yes.
Right? And you're in the States. Like, what's going through your head? What?
Yeah, 100%. So look. Nice.
So you're there. What's going through your head? Like, try to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Help us understand, dude. I mean, like, I know what I was,
Yeah. Can't forget,
what
man.
I experienced, right? Here, but for me, that was probably, one of the hardest things.
Yeah.
If I were in your shoes, you're, an ocean away, and flights aren't coming in, right? From what I understand, in the very beginning there, everything was just absolute chaos.
Absolutely.
I mean, what?
Absolutely. Look, man, this whole situation is a huge metamorphosis for me. Yeah. It's changed me on many levels. It has strange in many ways for me, right? So let me first quickly answer the. I talk about my unit comes into play a lot here. Our unit number is 707. Look at the clock over there right now. Okay, my number's everywhere, man. My number's everywhere.
I wish I could take a picture of that for you.
I got it quickly.
Cool. We're on the beach, by the way, just to give you an idea. Backdrop here is Batiam, and over there you have the what's that called? The guy who jumps in the water.
Lifeguards.
The lifeguard. So the lifeguard tower literally has 707 there, and pretty epic.
And yeah, there we go. Had to do that. That's
nice.
I got so many stories with that, but let's not digress right now.
Sure.
So I think I don't need to squint anymore. So I was out of the service for 13 years. All right, went back to Canada in 2010.
13 years since you've been in the military.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
We're still very connected. Still very.
That must have been awkward as well. I mean, I can only imagine.
I missed it beyond. I still have my dress uniform at home in my closet. With all my pins. Every day I would look at it and say, God, I need to get back one day, right?
Sure,
I need to get back. Sure. But here I am. Fast forward 13 years later.
Wow.
I was, I was still very connected to a lot of things here.
Sure.
I have so many generations of students of mine from all the different units, that they would get out of the Army and reach out to me. And, I was the representative of our unit association for the Americas. So I was still very plugged into everything. And
one of them's a good friend of mine.
Which one?
Ben Schuppenklappen.
Yes, Ben, of course.
Yeah.
Ben Z. Absolutely, that's right. Yeah.
He's been actually my partner in crime, doing security work all over
That's
the country
awesome.
here.
What a small world.
Yeah, a small world.
Tiny community for us. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, 13 years. Reason why I didn't go back is, first of all, as soon as I came to Canada, I got on this this tactical unit with nuclear site as security clearance. And Canada and Israel are not the best of friends when it comes to the intelligence world.
It's not like the States.
Couldn't compromise that. And I was working. I started being a career man and got a mortgage, met my wife, started a family. And, before you know it, it's just, here you are, 47 years old, and holy jeez, man, where does time fly? Yeah. And I was swamped with everything I was doing there, working full time, had a business, I was teaching all over the place, right? So as you alluded to earlier, I was very busy running training for a lot of all the, mostly in the U.S., but Canada as well, the FBI, DHS, bring a lot of all of our methodologies here in Israel. I took them, I converted them to fit more into the SOPs and the court justification aspects and the tactical tangibility of North America. The threat dynamics there, the threat profiles, the court system, and
that's important.
Yeah. Active shooter intervention. I was the assigned subject matter expert for what would be active shooter intervention here in Israel, right? For us, the dynamic's a little bit different. It's terrorists going into different towns and stuff. But I took that methodology, converted it to the U.S., especially our solo operator or officer response program, put that in there. The FBI adopted it, FLUTC adopted it, and I was very busy with all that. So, didn't have the opportunity to come back for any type of service. When you are living outside of Israel after, I don't remember what it is, I think it's about maybe 2 years or something like that, they cut your national security insurance, right? You're like Bituach Leumi. So,
and then you also get cut out from the system as far as military.
Because you have no more national insurance coverage.
Right.
They can't bring you in, have something happen, now who pays for you, right? So I was taking that as a pool.
I've experienced that too when I was working in the States and Europe and stuff. So,
I have no doubt. A lot of guys.
I know that
this war brought out a lot of us from the woodwork. Yeah, a lot of guys that were living for 10 years and came running back, right, to serve October 7th. So
I got a bunch of the calls, similar guys. I'm like, Doron, what can I do? I'm like,
help me get in.
I can't even think of it.
Well, I'll tell you.
I wish I could help.
I'll tell you how I got in. It's a typical Israeli bureaucracy.
Right. Oh yeah.
The week leading up to October 7th, I was in Michigan teaching at a police academy there. I drove home October 6th. It was a Friday. 6.5 hour drive. I get home. My phone already started getting messages from guys from here and guys, Israelis, Canada and the U.S. like, Nir, what's going on? Do you have any news on what's going on? I'm like, I don't know what's going on, man. I'm tired. I just got home. I need family time.
Exactly.
It's Israel. Oh, something's always going on.
Right. Exactly.
Never imagined for a second that what we would have seen the next day. And went to sleep. Woke up the next day. Turned my phone on, and it was just messages after messages. Okay, something's up. Took a while to figure out what was going on. I had messages from some of the guys from my unit here. Giving me kind of snapshots of what's going on. I'm like, holy jeez! I remember one of our guys telling me, Nir, man, it's bad. We already have some casualties in the unit. Now, for me, right away, I didn't imagine casualties being, 5 guys, including our commander, who's a friend, perished. I thought, scrapes, frags from a grenade, a bullet here and there. Warriors, tough guys. They'll be back. We've heard this tons of times, right? I wasn't prepared. I wasn't prepared for what the coming weeks would bring.
Yeah, I think that was a big hit for most of us because I know people from most of the Tier 1 units that work with me in security.
Absolutely.
I'm not one of those, but they are. And so just being acquainted with that community, and it's a very tight-knit, very small community.
Yes.
And realizing real quick, like, oh my God, like, there's a good number of people that personally that have just fallen in battle on day one. And I know for those units, it's extremely rare for them to have casualties.
Yes.
Or at least deaths.
Yes.
Wounded, sure.
Yes.
An occasional one guy here or there dies in operation, but most of their operations are really well planned and whatnot. And here they're just jumping into the unknown, unplanned, absolute chaos, and they're like falling, left and right, so to speak. Sadly.
And in addition,
that I think knocked all of us, off kilter of like, holy crap, what's happening?
Yeah, and I think it's in addition to that. That Blackhawk flying over top.
Again, I wish you guys could see this. I don't have a camera guy to help me out, get you B-roll, but there's a Blackhawk over there.
I'll get you some B-roll. Get you some B-roll real quick here. Let's see if we can catch it. There we go.
Beautiful sunset right now, guys. And super cool.
There we go.
But
nice. In addition to that point, Joe, just quickly, in addition to that point,
one of those where it's just, wow.
Everything you just mentioned. In addition to that, when you start to hear, it's your unit, it's this unit, it's that unit. It's like something real bad is happening, right? So I, like everybody, the next day I'm on the phone. I need to get back. I reach out to my unit. They're like, listen, right now, all of our teams are in the south. They're handling the situation. We don't know what's going to happen. Is there going to be a war in Gaza? Nobody knows right now. As you know,
the uncertainty of the first few days.
Absolutely, especially every special unit. There were lineups out the doors of hundreds of their reservists saying, "We want in right now." A lot of soldiers.
200% guys showing up. Like you have the 100% of reservists, right? That normally they get called up. You were at 200%.
Yes.
Show.
Unprecedented numbers, 100%. Yeah, absolutely.
Literally.
Units didn't have enough guns to give guys anymore. They're out of guns, right? You had guys that were also, they were still living in Israel, but they were no longer in the reserve pool. And they would get to base, and commander say, "Let's go grab a gun, grab a vest, jump in the car, get to the south," and that's it. Which caused a huge problem because so when I was pushing to get in, I'll kind of culminate how that happened for me. There was a pause for almost 2 weeks. The IDF said there's no more draft. No matter what's going on, there's no more draft because they had soldiers getting injured or killed that weren't even in the system. They couldn't process them. So my unit said, look, man, I can't help you right now. The commanders are also, I didn't know yet that Ellie, our commander, fell, but all the other commanders were getting ready to deploy to the field. There's nobody in command level to even help push your matter. Can't help you. I started shooting in every single direction. Had a lot of contacts, obviously. First place that I got was high-ranking officers that are with the Judea Brigade, Maga Gud 50-60, so the Judea Brigade, which is responsible for the Judea region of the West Bank, Judea Samaria, which Hebron is the main stomping ground. Battalion 50-60. It's a light infantry unit, reservist unit specializing in urban warfare. And it's a reservist unit that was put together in the beginning of the Second Intifada that would be comprised of either infantry guys out of the Kfir Brigade, one of the newer infantry brigades, and out of Duvdevan, Unit 217, the undercover counterterror unit that we have, one of our top units. And this is what the battalion was comprised of. So they said, don't worry, we'll find a way to get you in. I arranged a lot of donations, equipment, helmets and stuff, and the guy in the IDF, the general in charge of essentially signing off on who does or doesn't do reserve duty, the guys went to him and said, we need this guy. We're right now, we're doing an emergency draft. We need him right now. He's in Canada. He's ready to get on a plane tomorrow. He's like, the guy doesn't have his national insurance. I can't take him on. He says, look, you got to get him on. We need him. Number one. Number two, he's bringing all this equipment. He goes, oh, equipment. My kid is in the South. Does he promise to get my kid a helmet and a vest? He goes, he'll get him 2 helmets and vest. He's in. Boom. Just like that, I'm in. The next morning, I got myself Shimon in my orders. So 3 weeks.
So then you find yourself basically fighting in Hebron.
Yes.
And I know, like I said here in the beginning, most of the viewers are not aware that we've been hit on 3 fronts, essentially.
Exactly.
And I'll also point out something very important that people don't understand. Not that they don't understand, they just don't know. And it's not public information, okay? Like, I didn't hear anybody on CNN, CBB, BBD, or Alphabet Soup mention this. I know this because we operate in the field. We're field people. And
Yes.
This is what this podcast is for, is to get our voices out there like people who were there. And I know from the people who engaged with the terrorists on day one that retrieved footage and intel, what they had discovered was that the end game wasn't the Nova Festival. The
that was
Nova
by accident.
Festival
That's
was completely on surprise for the terrorists because it was an insider party. In other words, those who were on the inside crowd, whatever, had their group texting, what have you. It was like a last-minute deal that was thrown together, and so this wasn't part of their plan.
Yes.
And that actually saved the state of Israel. It was the miracle of Israel, as hard as it is to say. That was the miracle of that day.
Yes.
Because the end game, and this is what people know, was Jerusalem.
Correct.
They were wanting to get to Jerusalem and to get to the Temple Mount.
Correct.
Had the terrorists made it to the Temple Mount, the goal was to turn an uprising from the Muslim Arabs, who are Israeli citizens in East Jerusalem,
Yes.
and those who live in Judea, Samaria, or the West Bank in Palestinian villages.
Correct.
And that's essentially what you walked into with your unit, was shutting down the uprising because even though they didn't make it to their end game, from what I'm understanding, there was definitely a lot of push to join and start terrorist attacks and whatnot, where you're operating in Hebron.
3,000 Palestinian terrorists.
So say that again. I mean, you just said not a small number.
3,000 Palestinian terrorists invaded from the south. Okay, Palestinian terrorists, not Hamas. I'm tired of people making the distinction. This entire, and look, my heart goes out to every innocent person and every child out there, but the fact of the matter, statistically, proven statistics by their own rights, not from our statistics, over 80% of the Palestinian population would have an October 7th every single day.
Yeah.
This is what they live for.
That's right.
Now, with that, in Gaza... I
posted that on my social media from their own mouth. This is not what you just said. They have said this from their own mouth.
100%.
Yeah.
In Gaza alone, right? In Gaza alone, 2.2 million, Palestinians. Like, look, there's only 40,000 Hamas. If call it even 1.9, if 1 million of them in Gaza wanted to take back Gaza, take back Gaza over 40,000, they could have done it, right? Exactly. There's a reason why they did. So, with that, it's important to understand 3,000 of these terrorists invaded from the south in 3 different waves. The third wave was the pillage wave. That was the one where the majority of the kidnappings were happening, the rapes, dragging families out of the homes, burning them alive. They were not members of Hamas.
Right.
All right?
Officially.
Yes. So
this is what we call supporting staff. So just like you and me, it doesn't matter if it's a tier 1 operator or a battalion of soldiers, right? There's a huge supportive staffers, right? Who get you your food. So a cook is a supportive staff. I mean, he's
100%.
not fighting a war, but he's feeding the warrior who's fighting.
Absolutely.
So you got cooks, you got logistics, you got radios, and I mean there's
and just like everybody in that position,
so
support or not, everybody in that position, support or combat, you're a soldier. If you support terrorism, you're a terrorist. I don't care if you're just waving Hamas flag. So what they did in the south, they had the exact same thing planned in the West Bank.
Yep.
For whatever reason, they didn't trigger it. And I think it was because of the very early, there was also a disproportionate presence of Israeli security, the whole apparatus, already in the West Bank region because of Simchat Torah, right?
We were already in high alert for the High Holy Day.
Yes.
And had already deployed a bunch of units.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
And Gaza,
Forgot about that.
the noise that was happening in Gaza was going on for about 2 years. All the riots that were taking place over there. And so, and I'm not going to talk too much about, our government and things that I'm not the pay grade high enough to really know, but we all know.
Sure.
They thought everything was under control, right? And the concern, now Gaza also has borders around it, right?
Yep.
It's not supposed to be simple to breach Israel through Gaza.
Yep.
The West Bank is not the same dynamic. The West Bank is open, right? And so their assessment, justifiably, for why the South was a lot less fortified is because they took all the assets and moved them into the West Bank in preparation for what they thought was an actual threat assessment where the problem would happen. there were 380 commandos from the Commando Brigade that were taken about a week prior from the south, deployed to Judea region, right? Yeah. Can you imagine if they were in the south, right? Yeah. But anyways, I'm not there to judge based on that, because that was a valid assessment.
No, but we're just telling what we experienced and what we saw. I mean, that's just the reality, right?
And that's probably what put the brakes on the parallel invasion coming in from central Israel. Yeah. So with that, our mandate, I took off November 1st. I left Toronto, flew through Newark, New Jersey to catch El Al to Tel Aviv. I was on full uniform. My commander's waiting for me at Ben Gurion as I landed, right onto a military jeep, right to Hebron, right to our field base, to the admin office to get signed on.
Here you go.
Yes.
Get right out there.
Right to the armory, got my rifle. Yeah. I didn't even have a chance to zero my weapon until about 2 or 3 weeks into my service. I was kicking in Hamas doors, going on arrest with a weapon that I was hoping was zeroed. Yeah. All CQB, so it would have been okay. But in full uniform, right, and that was it. Right into it. Yeah. Our mandate, the first couple of weeks, the first couple of weeks of October, going into about the first week of November when I was finally here. I mean, there was a big mess in especially the Hebron region, right? So people that don't understand, Hebron, out of the 5 main cities that we have in Judea Samaria, which is Hebron, Tulkarem, Kalkilia, Jenin, and Ramallah, Hebron is the largest geographically, has the biggest population, about 219,000, out of which only about 1,000 are Jews.
And the largest population of the Palestinian cities.
Correct.
These are cities.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, people need to understand here. We're not talking about
little encampments and exactly.
These are
full out. You want.
And Hebron is one of the wealthiest, from what I understand.
A lot of resources
because of their industry,
and because a lot of the Israelis go there to give them business, right?
Right. Yeah.
So
a lot of the industry, like Home Depot or Walmart products that you'll, like as an American, let's say, or Canadian or North, part of the world that you're used to buying in the shops, this is what they're producing in our equivalent here, and that's being produced and sold from Hebron.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hebron has the largest Hamas and PIJ population outside of Gaza, number one.
Okay.
Number two, the majority, I don't want to say the majority, but definitely an overwhelming amount of Hamas and PIJ terrorists that operate out of and live in Gaza, their families live in Hebron. And number three, well over, I'm going to be, I think the word is conservative with my assessment, 95% of all the terror attacks that ever take place in Israel that are deployed from the West Bank region are from Hebron.
Correct.
That's the dynamic of Hebron.
Yeah. Like we all know, whoever operates here in Israel and knows any intel whatsoever, right, who's privy to that kind of information, we all know that is the hotbed for, exactly like you said, of terrorists that are going to be sent out on attack. They're either going to be trained and or funded and or supported, promoted, you name it, through these terror families. It's like and I like to put it like a mafia, okay? So it's a mafia, and it's certain family groups within that mafia that control bigger portions of the mafia, lesser portions, and
100%. And then you got the Palestinian Authority, right? That pays all the families and pays you to go be a terrorist. So it's a hornet's nest of all this constellation of the nuts and bolts of terrorism. So that's where I was. I was there for about 3.5 months, 107 days. Half the time we are doing light infantry work, which is protecting all the Jewish Israeli areas in the mixed regions of Hebron, right? So you have your territories A, B, and C, right? For those who don't know, your A territories, it's Arabs only, no one else. Don't go in there. That's what the signs read when you reach the entry points of all those villages. There's a sign in Hebrew, in Arabic, and in English. Do not enter. If you're concerned, risk of death.
Like that's literally what it says. Entry by risk of
100%. Your C.
People and by the way, this is a nice little segue to, the world likes to accuse us of apartheid.
Right.
And to me, what you just pointed out, that right there, that's where the apartheid does exist.
Yes.
It's in the Palestinian communities and it doesn't say Jews are not allowed, although that's what the main focus of the who's not allowed here.
Yes.
The main focus, or what's put in there, it says Israelis, so no Israeli citizens.
Correct.
So Israel has Christian Arabs, Muslim Arabs, Druze,
yep,
Circassians.
That's right.
All kinds
Everybody.
of ethnicities that
That's
live
right.
here, not just Jewish people.
That's right.
And all of you who have Israeli ID cards
don't go in there.
Not allowed into these areas.
Don't go in there.
By risk of death is what it says.
Correct. And so that's your A territories.
And we don't have any signs going the other way, by the way.
Of course not. There's no signs. For them, it's you're welcome.
The world cries about checkpoints, and I love to take the example of Canada, because when I visited Canada years ago, I visited BC with my family and my baby, now she's my oldest daughter, but she was a little baby at the time. I spent 2 hours at the checkpoint. 2 hours.
Yeah.
They processed me like through and through, and I have an American citizenship, and all that. My wife is Swedish, so maybe because of the European passport, I don't know. But dude, they checked me out through and through that I wasn't bringing drugs or this or that or contraband, whatever. And I remember thinking to myself, this is ridiculous. Like, holy crap, guys. Like, as an American, and then I remember thinking about, and the world makes such a big deal about the checkpoints, right?
Yeah, it's all false. It's all false, but whatever.
And no Palestinian's going to spend more than 5 minutes at a stop.
Yes.
We're talking about seconds.
Of course.
Within seconds.
Absolutely. 100%.
Hi, who are you? Let me see your paperwork. All right, see it. Bye.
100%, right? And that's exactly right. So, welcome to the apartheid.
Welcome to the apartheid.
So, that's your A territories. Your B territories is mixed Israelis and Arabs. And your C territories is Israelis, right?
Right.
Hebron, the majority is all either A or B. Anywhere where there's and the A territories are the red zones. Everything else is a blue zone, and where you have the merger of the both, we have checkpoints.
Right.
Those were all closed down during the war, right? So part of our duties in 50-60 was we manned all the checkpoints. That's kind of the mundane, boring work. Is the 3 hours on and 4 to 6 hours off of just the guard duty, the checkpoints, and patrols, and then. Intertwined within all that, every single night we are out on operational missions, which are all raids, raiding every single home facility that the Shabak is telling us. There's terrorists here, terrorist family there, weapons. Which is they've changed their name a few times. It used to be the General Security Service, it's now the ISA, the Israeli Security Agency, the equivalent of our DHS and FBI, right? Our internal security office, and they're in charge of everything intel related for Israel. They're the ones that come to us and say, whether it's there's a terrorist, this part of your region of Hebron carried out an attack a couple of weeks ago, was involved in planning an attack. You're going to go and arrest them tonight, or whether it's we've had literally
the weapons,
everything, intel, the weapons, and the bodies, right, the arrests, right up to. We just intercepted a will that was made, a bank account. The owner of this will transferred all of his funds to his wife. He is going today to commit a suicide bombing. Get over there, find him, arrest him, right? And so that's kind of the nature of all the operations that we did.
Sure.
We had many attacks that we responded to. Active, whether single or cell terrorists that infiltrated the different towns in our entire region. Tons of stabbing attacks. We had a bulldozer ramming attack 2 o'clock in the morning at one of our posts in the field. Palestinian starts up a bulldozer and drives up to the checkpoint and tries to ram 2 of our soldiers. They were able to successfully eliminate him. They did a great job. Vehicle ramming attacks, responded to everything. Shootings. Oh yeah, the shootings. Yes.
On Israeli citizens.
Absolutely.
On these roads, right?
100%. Yeah. Every other night you're hearing an explosion go off. You're hearing a burst of fire, right? And so right away, we disperse right away. Teams roll out. So it was awesome. You know what? I was really happy that I landed there. It was a very unique dynamic for me.
Well, I'm glad you can tell us from your experience there, right?
Very.
I mean, I felt like there was so much focus on Gaza, and I'm like, bro, there's people that I know who are up on the northern border.
Oh,
and
the north.
Yeah,
man, I mean, raining missiles from day one.
Yeah,
soldiers are sleeping in mud, dealing with missiles landing over there. People don't know. Exactly. Half of the north was evacuated, and these hotels here.
Right.
You have residents
evacuees
from the Gaza envelope and from the north that have been living here for months.
And are still living here.
Still living here for months, literally. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. People don't realize it, right? No. Yeah, so for us.
And then you're there in Judea, Samaria, in the West Bank.
Yes.
Right? And then you're also taking part in shutting down and putting out these fires, so to speak.
I'll tell you.
So essentially what people need to understand, and this is why I'm happy that we have you to share this, is that, I'm at the tip of the spear of the fighting in Gaza. You're in the tip of the spear of the fighting in Judea, Samaria, and in the worst enclave of terrorism. And then I have some good buddies who are up in the tip of the spear of the fighting up in the north.
Yeah.
And I mean, this has probably been the most dynamic war I've ever been a part of.
Me too.
Because like you, I got to basically participate in every war since 2003.
Amazing. Amazing.
And usually it's like we're all going to the north, or we're all going to go. It's like, but here you are, man. Like, in one of the 3 multi-front wars that's happening here. And I think that's important for the audience to understand. I mean, this is very, very difficult because Judea, Samaria, you guys can look it up, is in the very heart of Israel. And it's surrounding Jerusalem.
That's right.
Okay, which is our capital.
Yes.
So the very heart of Israel is on fire, so to speak, by terrorist attempts to try to kill, murder, destroy, what have you.
Absolutely.
The southern, the Gaza Strip, and then the northern. I mean, and we were not just attacked by Lebanon, by the way, in the north, also attacked from Syria. So it's multi-front war up there.
Yeah, it's unprecedented.
Proxies, etc., etc.
Everything that we're facing now is unprecedented throughout all of history. I'll tell you, let's jump over to tactical.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, 100%.
I know. Just to talk about it right now,
listen, man, I never, I listen to stories from, our parents' generation about all the wars they went through, about our grandparents' generation, about the Holocaust, and we are telling these stories to our kids, you and me.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's mind-boggling.
It is.
Let's jump over to a tactical, little bit of a tactical kind of element with Gaza and Judea, Samaria. For me, right, experience is kind of unique.
Right.
So,
huge
Arabs, all urban warfare, a lot of CQB, right? Some different applications. But here's what's kind of really funky was that. So all Arab entrances have always been fortified, right? We always had to breach them, generally mechanically. During the Second Intifada, to do thermal breaching was very risky because they would shoot at the gas tanks and blow up the soldiers.
Sure.
So a lot of mechanical and kind of manual pneumatical breaching. But this for me was very interesting because I had never experienced this. Even when I was in the counterterror unit, our stomping grounds was the whole West Bank region, and we'd always have our standard 2 guys in through the door at once. When I landed in 5060, I was assigned right away as the number 1 entry guy. I've always been the number 1 entry guy, even when I was on the unit. I was the bigger, older guy, so they're like, he's going in first, right? So this time here, my commander, my mem, our platoon commander, he was an attorney in a civilian life, really smart guy. Yeah. And he right away, with my credentials, and then I'm a counterterror NCO, right? So I'm in charge of everything counterterror related. I became the resident counterterror SME for the battalion, and I was the number 1 guy in. So I was his number 2 guy. We get up to a door. If we would need to breach it, right? We have different protocols, whether we bang on the door and announce ourselves and then breach, whether we breach right away, depending on what the mission profile was. Yeah. But as soon as the breach would happen, breachers would draw back, and I was always the number 1 guy, and it would always only be 1 guy in. The doors here are double, right? And you have picture this big kind of plane of a metal door, and there's 2/3 and then 1/3, and they keep the 2/3 locked. It's all the 2/3 is one kind of piece.
Right.
Bolted. They keep it bolted, and they only open the 1/3. right? And that's what they used to come in and out of, and that's what they used to answer the door.
Yeah.
And I remember the first house that we hit. I don't know what to say that I forgot about this or I didn't even know about it, but I was like, what the fuck?
Right.
So my men
North America and all the
North America and also that I don't remember even experiencing this though.
Yeah.
Even all of the missions that I was on here, 10 years prior, the doors were a normal width. Right. They were all metal, but they were normal width.
Right.
Our breachers breached the very first door. I have everything on GoPro. We'll sit down. I'll show you everything. But the commander announces there's nothing. Breachers hit. Nir, go in. And I remember trying to get in, and I get stuck. And I'm in full gear, right? I'm like, what the fuck? I got my M4 in through the door, all right, and I developed the single operator entry method, okay? Yeah. Some of the units took it right away. Others were, we're sticking with what we've always done, right. Whatever. I have my own way of doing things.
Sure.
That saying, can't believe I get to use this thing for myself now, but be wary of an old man in a game where young men die, right? Exactly. Or men die young, right? I'm like, wow, I'm going to grow the beard now. Yeah, exactly, right? So I've been doing things right so far. I remember the first house that we hit, we had two wanted Hamas guys in there. The door bursts open. There's half a light on. The family is right there in the living room, right? And it's a center fed. The kitchen was off to the left. There was a living room off to the right. Yeah. And I'm trying to come in, and my shoulders get stuck on the door. I'm like, what is this? And so, I can't be stuck on the door, right? And I right away, I kind of I shimmy in, so I automatically take this corner just by kind of the organic nature of the movement that I had to make to shimmy through. And then I had to also I got mag pouches. I got a supply pouch here with a grenade, stun grenade here, 2 frag pouches, 2 mag pouches here, and 2 frags here, right? I had to get used to the positioning of everything so I can build the blueprint for how exactly I move, right? Anyways, I got through that, and then I had to right away, like I said, I had to remember every single door. I had to remember which shoulder goes in first, which pouch goes in first, right? Which pouch goes in next. I smoothed out my method very quickly. I was first one in on dozens of all the entries that we did, and right there I was able to get into those little crevices. Yeah. So that was really unique. For sure. And then anyways, did that 3.5 months, 107 days. We're finally told, well, in December, we're told, January, first week of January, you're going home. First week of January, they're told January 15th, you're going home. Yeah. January 15th, January 25th, you're going home, right? And then they got to February 15th. I said to my commander, look, man, I already told the kids, I told my wife that February 15th was the date, and we had this whole reunion plan with the kids, a surprise for them. I had a videographer, make one of those reunion videos, and I told them, I said, I respectfully, I got to get home, right? So they released me about 2 weeks earlier than the rest of the battalion got released. Yeah. Today I serve in 3 different units, so I still belong to 5060. I'm back also in the capacities with my counterterror unit, and I'm seconded to a commando battalion in the south. It's the Bislach Brigade, the 828. So it's the infantry's squad leader school. Yeah. They have, under the brigade, they've got 3 plugot companies, right? No, Gdudim, right? So the 906, 450th, and the 17th. And I get stuck again trying to translate all the terms. The 906 is the Special Forces battalion. That's one I belong to. And that's where I went to Gaza with. So I was supposed to go with them to Lebanon sometime in April, right? So when I got released, they said, listen, man, you got at least a good month and a half to be with the family, to be at home. I get home February 16th, haven't even unpacked any of my suitcases. Trying to get back integrated into life and work, and I was tired, and I said, I got time to deal with all this stuff. 10 days later, I'm sitting at dinner table with my wife and actually an uncle of mine that came to visit from France, and my phone goes off, and my platoon commander from 906 says, we're going to Gaza in 2 days. Now, they spent they were in Gaza from the beginning. They had, man, this battalion, like, I mean, God bless every single one of our units and battalions and soldiers.
Yeah.
This was everybody's walking out with war stories, right? Sure. And just my heart goes out to everybody, and I think all of us have been sharpened, in one way or another. Speaking just to what I know, which is what the units I'm involved in, but they had some serious work starting in from the north of Gaza, all the way through into Sajaiya. We had in Al-Zarit. You know how to say that in English? APC. I don't know if there's a specific.
APC.
So it's a standard APCs that we go in from. They were hit with RPGs. Guys were burnt. Face-to-face engagements. These were, when they went in to take over. The blueprint was you get assigned your zone. Your brigade gets assigned a zone within the brigade. They assign the different battalions their zones, right? And then you go to work with your battalion.
Yeah.
It was hit a building, hit a house. You take it over. It's a mess. You now got to clean it up. That becomes your compound for a couple days. That's where you're living.
Yeah.
So clean it up, right? Guys would have to be standing guard duty.
We're talking about cleaning up, right? People need to understand a lot of these houses have been hit by either tank fire, airstrikes, what have you, depending on what was it used before you arrived. And so you're essentially clearing debris from explosions,
Yep.
gun battles, from God
100%.
knows what.
Make it habitable.
Yeah.
Open up the chain so that the supply divisions can bring you water and rations.
Yeah.
You fortify there. 2-3 days, you get your next order to move, and you're off to the next building. And this process, they had to repeat it, for 4 months.
Yeah.
my hat goes off to them.
This is awesome. I'm telling you, this is the best content-wise podcast I've ever done, and the setting, everything, the meaning, everything.
Dude, that's so awesome. So, just to conclude with you, brother, this has been a great time to sit down with you, pick your brain, get into your experience with Hebron, them fighting in Gaza, and I just want to say thank you, brother. This has been great. Anything you wanted to end with, and leave these people with that are watching?
Look, man, I don't know that I got any more wise words to say.
Yeah.
I hope everybody just turns to God, and that we prevail in the end. And I know that we will. Good always does in the end. For the sake of everybody, I don't have anything to say that'll change anything. I know that my 2-bit little self do my 2-bit little part, like every single one of us, and we're gonna keep on going, keep on pushing forward towards peace and love and good for everybody, and we'll see what happens.
Awesome. Well, guys, I'll make sure, of course, to have all his social media information. You can follow him, guys. You need to follow this dude. He is like a legend here in the Special Forces community. One of my guys I look up to, that I've been following, that I've been like, wow, what respect and honor to have you representing the state of Israel, where you have been in Canada, in Georgia, and all over, where you've been doing your work and just really shining the light of Israel in the nations, and in your amazing career and work. And much appreciated, brother. Thank you for this. This has been awesome.
My honor and pleasure, brother. Thank you very much.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Good deal.